Hello, welcome back to another Flutter tutorial. In this video, I'll be showing you how to use SQLite database in Flutter. So we'll be creating tables, selecting values from the database, updating and delete values in the database. So let's start. And the first thing you have to do is you have to add the SQLite library in the pubspec.yaml file. So I'll be adding the SQFlite library. I'll be providing the link in the description. Start as usual. I'll be starting with an empty template. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to name it employee.dart. So we'll be creating a list of employees in the database. So let's keep it simple with just an ID and a name. And first one is the constructor, which takes the ID and the name. And the next function is called toMap, that converts an employee object to a map. So map equal to string and a dynamic, and that assigns the ID to the incoming ID and name to the incoming name. And let's return the map. Alright, so the next method will be employee.fromMap. So we will be returning an employee object from a map. So the parameter will be a map, and we are going to extract the ID and the name from the map and returns the employee object. Alright, so we are done with the employee class now. Now let's import the employee and the async package to our main file. And now I'm going to create a new file where we will have our database functions. So I'm going to name it db_helper.dart. So let's write the helper class. Before that, we need to import all the necessary packages we need. We need the asynchronous package, IO package, the path, the SQLite library, the path provider, and the employee. So let's name the class dbHelper. So I'm going to declare a variable of type database, and let's declare the other database table columns. The first one is the ID, the second one is a name, and the third one is a table name, so that we will call employee, and the fourth one the database name, let's call it employee.db. Alright, now let's write the functions. So first we need to get the database, so get db and async. So if the database is not equal to null, so if it is already initialized, we are going to return the database, or we are going to create a new database, right? We are going to initialize the database. So I'm going to call a new method initDB. So we will be writing that function initDB. That is also an asynchronous function. Let's get the directory where we will have the database. So get application documents directory, that will return the applications documents directory. Now append the documents directory dot path with the database name. Alright, now let's call the open database with that path, and the version let's give it as 1, and on create of the database we are going to call a new method. We'll be writing that method. Okay, so let's return the database. Okay, now let's write the onCreate function. So that will take the database instance and the version. Okay, so that will be await db.execute. We're going to write the create table query. So create table with the necessary fields. So ID, and then ID, which is an integer and a primary key, and the second one is the name, which is a text. Alright, so we have the create table query now. So now we are going to write the methods. So inserting, so let's write the insert function first. So that will return a future employee. We are going to call it save. So that's going to take an employee object, and let's get the database first. So await DB, and our insert will return the employee, the ID. Okay, so that is we are assigning that to the employee.id. So insert the table name with employee.toMap. So that will convert the employee to a map, and that will be inserted into the database. So let's write this in another way with the raw SQL query. So this is a way to do it. You can call db client the db instance.transaction, which is an asynchronous function, and inside that you can have the query. So variable query equal to insert into table, and the name with values. So name is a string, so put it inside a quote. So you have to write it like this. Okay, there we have the insert query. Now call await transaction dot insert, sorry, raw insert with the query, insert query. Okay, so we are just going to, this is just for information, we are going to comment it out, and we are going to use other code. Okay, okay, now we are going to do a select from the database. So that will return a future list of employees, and the method name is get employees. Now let's get the database. Once we have the database, we are going to create a list of map. So that is equal to await database client dot query the table name, and with the columns that we want it to return. So we need the ID and the name. Okay, so we can write this in the raw query format also. So this is a way to do it. List of maps equal to await database client dot raw query, and you can write like this: select star from the table. Okay, we are just commenting it out, we are not going to use that now. So let's get the list of employees. So I'm going to declare an empty array of employees, and if the maps dot length is greater than 0, so if we have at least one row, we are going to loop through the maps, and we are going to create the list of employees. So employees dot add, and we are going to use the employee dot from map method. So that will return the employee from each map and add it to the employees array, and let's return the employees. The next method will be delete. So that will take the employee ID, and let's get the database. So await database and return database client dot delete with the table name and the where argument, where we are going to use the ID as the argument and provide the arguments which is the ID that we are passing, right? So it will delete the corresponding row from the database. Now let's write the update method. So that will also return the integer, and let's pass the employee which needs to be updated, and get the database as usual as we did in the other methods, and call await database client dot update with the table name and the employee which needs to be updated, convert that to a map, and where will be ID is equal to our employee dot ID, right? So that's the employee we need to update. Okay, so we have all the methods now. Now the final method would be closing the database. Once you have used the database, make sure you close it. So call close on the database client. That will close the database. Now we are going to write some UI to actually see the values that are coming from the database and display it in the UI. So for that, I'm going to declare a list of employees. So that will be a future, and I'm going to need a text editing controller to control a text field, and I'm going to need a string name and an integer which is called current user ID, which will be used for updating and deleting. Okay, and I'm going to declare a form key, so we'll be having a form which will be having a text field, and we'll be using the form to get the value from the text field, and a database helper variable and a boolean to decide the state if it is updating or inserting. So on init state, I'm going to create a new db helper object. So we have to import that first. So let's import that. Import db helper. Okay, and I'm going to update the is updating to false. Okay, now I'm going to return write a method refresh list, so that is going to get the list of employees from the database. So we are going to call the get employees method, which is in the db helper class. So make sure you put it in the set state, so that will be rendered in the UI. We are going to use that variable in the UI. Okay, so let's write the form. So I'll be having a child with a padding and a column. So with a center and minimum size and vertical direction down, and inside that I am going to have a text form field, so which for which I'll be supplying the controller, and I'm going to put a hint name, and on validator I'm just checking if it is empty. If it is empty, I'm going to say enter name or null, and on saving we'll be assigning that value to the string name. Okay, so just below that I'm going to declare, I'm going to have two buttons, two flat buttons. So one is going to say update or add. So on press of that button we are going to call a method validate that we will be writing, and the next button we are going to call it cancel, so that will reset the update is updating boolean to false. Okay, so clear name will clear the text in the text field. Okay, so let's write the validate function. So if the form key dot current state dot validate is true, so if the text field is having some value, we are going to save that, and if it is updating, if the current state is updating, we are going to call the update method in the db helper class. For updating we are going to pass the current user ID, so we will be assigning that shortly with the name variable. Okay, so call db helper dot update with the employee object, and we are going to reset the is updating boolean to false. Okay, so then we are going to clear the text field also, else we are going to insert the value into the database, right? Insert the employee. So ID will be null, and call db helper dot save. ID is null because that will be auto generated. Okay, so that's our UI now. Now we are going to list the employees just below that, so we are going to write another method list, so that's going to return an expanded widget with a child future builder. The future will be the future list of employees that we declared, so employees, and the builder will return the snapshot, and we are going to check if the snapshot dot has data. If it has data, we are going to display the list of employees, so that we will write later, and we are going to check some error conditions. So if it is null or empty, we are going to just display a text saying, let's say no records found or no data found. Okay, otherwise we are going to show a progress indicator. So if we are having the data, we are going to display it in a data table. Okay, so for that we are going to write a method data table, and we are going to call return data table with the snapshot dot data. So okay, so data table will take the argument list of employees. Okay, so inside that we are going to return a single child scroll view. Okay, with a scroll direction axis dot vertical. Okay, and the child, which will be a data table. So data table will have columns and rows. The columns, let's declare two columns. The first one will be name, so that will take a text with name label, and the second one will be delete. So we are going to delete, place a delete button in the second column. Okay, so we have the columns now. Let's write the rows now. So rows will take the employees. So employees dot map with each employee, and convert that to a list because it is expecting a list of widgets. Okay, so each employee will return a data row. So each data row will have cells. So each cell will have a data cell. So data cell will have the value displayed. So create a text with the employee dot name. Okay, now okay, we have the list now. So let's copy that. So columns and rows, the number of columns and number of cells should be equal. So we have two columns, and we are now writing the second row. So we are going to display a delete button there. So on press of the delete button, we are going to call the delete from the database. So db helper.delete with the employee.id, right? So once we have that, we are going to refresh the list in the UI. Okay, okay, so let's add the list in the UI. Alright, now let's call that in onCreate itself. Okay, we have the list now, but there is nothing. So let's add something. What is going wrong there? Oh, okay, so let's hot restart. So we have it in the database, but today we didn't refresh after adding. So go to the add and call the refresh list there. Okay, so we can put the clear name after and refresh list there. Okay, let's hot restart and add another one. Okay, I'm adding my name. Now let's add John. Okay, working. Now let's try to delete. Okay, so that is also working. Okay, so now on top of the row name, we are going to set the is updating to true, and set the current user ID to the current employee ID. Okay, now set the text to the employee name in the form field, into the text field. Okay, so there we go, we have it now. Now let's try to do it again. Click on that. Let's try to update. Okay, click update. So that is updated now. Okay, let's write something else. I have my name now, so I'm going to update my name, Vipin Vijayan. Click update. Okay, so that is also working. So we have all the basic functions now. So let's add James, and you click it, and you click with an empty. So our validation is also working. Okay, so we have the create, select, delete and update functions now. So those are the basic functions that we do in a database. So we can have complex queries as well. So that's all for this video. If you like the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video, and also hit the bell icon for notifications. And thanks for watching. See you in the next video.